last thing I want to do on the podcast here today is talk about potential award winners for this upcoming NBA season. So we're going to talk about the MVP, the DPOY, the Sixth Man of the Year, and the Most Improved. Something like the clutch player, it's more so. That was kind of hard to predict. It's been De'Aaron Fox and then Steph Curry. I can throw out someone out there, but that's talking about Most Improved because I already had a whole segment about him in my episode about breakout players. I think it's going to be Cole Anthony. I think he's the guy that I can definitively say I think he's going to break out this year. And Most Improved is pretty unpredictable usually. Sometimes it doesn't even go to the guy that you really think it should. I mean, people are saying Wemby ought to be Most Improved. He was already Rookie of the Year. This is a guy who already averaged 21 points a game and 10 boards while being one of the best defenders of the league. How good of a defender can he really be, right? How good of a improvement can he really make? But with Cole Anthony, I think there's absolutely room for improvement. With the loss of Markelle Fultz, this is his team as the point guard. And you've still got someone like Jalen Suggs. I think Jalen Suggs is a better shooting guard than point guard in terms of the skill set. So Cole Anthony, he's a really good scoring guard. And in general, his biggest issue has been his efficiency. But over the past couple of years in Orlando, especially last year, his efficiency has been a lot better. So I think if he's able to be the starter, he can absolutely be a very impactful player for the Magic and very well be Most Improved. So he's my pick for Most Improved. Just kind of want to go over that quick. I've got a little 4-minute segment about him and probably a 15-minute episode about breakout players. If you want to go check, I already mentioned the man's name who I think is going to win this year. It's Victor Wembanyama. He was the runner-up this past year, and there's no reason he can't be the winner this year. He was already one of the most impactful players in the entire league for his defense last year. And I think that can only improve as he gains more experience and develops a bigger knowledge of the game on the NBA level. I think just more years in the league is only going to be improvement. So why can't he be a second-year Defensive Player of the Year? The way he's able to alter the game at any point with his 7'4" frame, 8-foot wingspan, Wemby is just a physical anomaly. And he's smart about it, too. He's able to recover really quickly if he makes a lapse on defense. Guess what? He's still in range to block your shot. And, you can have what you think is an open shot on the perimeter. Guess what? Wemby's right there to swat it away. And so just the physical tools that he has, Wemby can absolutely be a good defender. And Chris Paul came to that team. Now, obviously, these two guys are very different. Chris Paul is 6'1", Wemby 7'4". So Chris Paul is more perimeter defender, but this is a guy that was a very good defender in his own right. So I think he can teach Wemby some tips. Because Wemby, guess what? He's a solid perimeter defender as well. Just because of the lengths, he's able to get places. Obviously, he's best in the post, but Wemby's just a very good all-around defender. And Rudy Gobert is always going to be in the discussion, but I think for the historical precedent of it, he's not going to win a fifth. Because right now he's tied with Dikembe Mutombo and Hakeem Olajuwon for the most defensive player of the year. Not Dikembe and Hakeem. Dikembe and Ben Wallace for the most defensive players of the year. 4 of them. And, a lot of people aren't big fans of Rudy Gobert, especially the media. They don't like Rudy too much. So I think him being tied with Ben Wallace and Dikembe, that's as good as it's going to get for him. I don't think he's going to win another. I don't think he's going to win a fifth. And that opens up the doorway for the runner-up from last year and the guy who's just going to have another year under his belt to go and win that Defensive Player of the Year, and that's Victor Wembanyama. I think this one was kind of unpredictable because this was one of the weaker draft classes we've seen in recent memory. We've had solidified guys like Anthony Edwards. It was supposed to be Kate Cunningham, who's had a up-and-down start to his career, then Paul Banchero, then Wemby. So we've had some super hyped-up prospects recently, and this draft class didn't really have one. Zachary Reese-Sachet is more of a role player for the Atlanta Hawks with the first pick. So I think it's going to be the guy that went number 2 because he wants more of a role in his offense. That's going to be Alex Sarr, just because of the opportunity that he has over in Washington. He wanted the opportunity, Alex Sarr did. I don't know how it's going to work for his long-term development because I think to be the most impactful you can be long-term in the NBA, there's only a select few guys that can be the solidified number 1 guy on a contender, right? So I think learning as a rookie to be just play your role more. A guy like Alex Risachet, or not, not Alex Risachet, Zachary Risachet, I think that is going to be more beneficial for his development long term. But in the short term, I think Alex Sarr is going to put the most eye popping stats in Washington because there's not a lot of guys there that Washington really needs to build around. Jordan Poole looks really bad. Kyle Kuzma isn't going to get much better at this point. So I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for Alex Sarr, and he's going to put up the stats, and he's going to be Rookie of the Year. I don't know how his long-term development is going to be because I think, once again, I don't know that Alex Sarr has potential to be the guy on a championship team. So I think it's better for him to kind of learn early on to be more of a role player when he eventually needs that, whether it's as an aging veteran or even if he just can't be the guy in his prime. So I think Alex Sarr, long-term wise, I don't like the development for him over in Washington, but I think he can absolutely be Rookie of the Year. Another guy I want to bring up is Rob Dillingham of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He had a really good preseason showing the other day. But in general, I don't think he's going to get enough opportunity because that team has a lot of stat guys, and he doesn't have a solidified, like a certain rotation spot because you've got Anthony Edwards at the guard position, Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Dante DiVincenzo, even Nikhil. So there's not a lot of opening for Rob. I think they're going to work some minutes in for him for sure. I just don't think he's going to get enough opportunity. I think he's got all the talent in the world, but he's going to need to learn and grow and develop until he gets some true consistent minutes in Minnesota. So I think Alex Sarr is the guy to win Rookie of the Year this year over Washington. I think it could be Malik Monk. That's my pick. He was the favorite for a lot of the year last year until ultimately he lost out to Naz Reid. I think Malik Monk is just kind of the quintessential six-man. He's a microwave scorer that's going to come off the bench. He's going to give you buckets. He's going to put some shots up. And does he do a lot of defense? No. Does he play make for others the best? No. But he's going to get his shots up and he's going to make those shots. And for Malik Monk, just with the historical precedent of it, I think that's the play style that really gets you Sixth Man of the Year a lot of the times out of a guy like Jordan Clarkson. So I think Malik Monk absolutely is probably my favorite for Sixth Man of the Year, and I believe he's the betting favorite as well. I think that makes a lot of sense. Malik Monk, he has the skill set for a six-man. He's going to have the opportunity to be a six-man once again. I think the only reason Malik Monk wouldn't win is if the Kings kind of wanted to put him out in the starting lineup, because I think he has all the talent in the world to do that. But just you've got three other major scoring options there: De'Aaron Fox, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis. So I don't know how much you would want to put Malik in the starting lineup. I think Herter's a better role player, and they've got some other role players on that team like Keon Ellis that could slot in better. So he's got the talent to be a starter, but I think Malik Monk with the skill set is more suited for a six-man role. And that's why I think he's my pick for the Sixth Man of the Year. He's just got the perfect skill set for it, got the perfect game, confidence in himself. He was a lock, it seemed like, last year to win it until Naz Reid ultimately came from behind to snatch it from him. And I think this is Malik Monk's year for MVP. I'm between two guys. I'm between Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luka Doncic. Now, for Shai, I want to touch on him first because ultimately I think the major talking point here is it's going to take him out of it. And that is the fact, as I mentioned earlier, that Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, I think they're going to take a little bit of the offensive load off of him. So Shai might not be averaging 31 anymore. He might be averaging 28. And I think just to, kind of the general media, they'll see that and say, oh, Shai's not having as good a year as what we normally see from him, so we're not going to give it to him. Because usually, a lot of times, you see voter fatigue for a guy like Anderson. Usually just comes with a guy that's won it before. But Shai was your runner-up, so, you kind of see it, like with Giannis, he had arguably the best individual season of his career last year. But since we had already seen, 30 points a game, double-digit rebounds with league defense beforehand from him, it wasn't anything new. So, Giannis, was he even top 5 for MVP this year? Right? So, voter fatigue plays a huge factor, and I think if Shai does the same or a little bit less as he did this past year, and I think he'll be even better on defense this year because if Chet and J-Dub allow him to take a step back on offense very slightly, that allows Shai to open up more on the defensive end. But I don't know that the general media is going to see that. I think that Shai will not win MVP this year. But that leaves Luka Doncic. I think it's the same case with him, except I think the fact that Luka's defensive flaws have been so widely recognized that if Kyrie is able to take away a little bit of the offense from it, and Luka's still a super high usage player, he's improved on his defense a little bit with the addition of Kyrie because he has to. Because that backcourt, it's not the best of defense, right? So someone's got to do it over on the perimeter. And Luka Doncic has been slightly better, not a complete traffic cone on defense at times now. So I think if Luka improves on defense a little bit and continues to be a super high usage player on offense, the media is going to see, these eye-popping numbers from Luka once again, and they're going to see that he's a little bit improved defender. I think Luka Doncic can absolutely be the MVP, especially with another year of continued team success. He's always a favorite, but I think it's bound to happen once again this time for real this year, because you always see Luka in the standings as the pick for MVP. It hasn't quite panned out yet, but I think this is finally going to be for today's episode of State of the Association. This is really fun to do. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back in a couple of days going over teams on the outside looking in. That might be the last one for the season preview. I might have some more stuff coming out, and then we're going to put all those together into one little package going into the 2024-25 NBA season. But for now, thank you for tuning in. We're, of course, going to have the Sunday Night Football takeaways. Thank you for tuning in. It's been State of the Association. I'm your host, Nash Roberts.